It was a hard, goodbye that I feel like I mourned the wrap of Snow White while I was in the middle of kind of getting my bearings on the Hunger Games set.
It's like you're standing him or whatever. So it's less like a crush and more about you're obsessively into this person.
Hi there, I'm me. Throughout her life, Snow White has been more than simply a fairy tale princess, a living legend who has been involved in the creation of the Disney magic concept since 1937. However, that legacy is currently being entangled by two very different retellings that are vying for the affection of viewers worldwide. One version has Rachel Zegler, a Hollywood rookie who rose to fame thanks to recent musicals. Brett Cooper, a YouTuber and former Daily Wire personality, adopts a more conventional strategy in contrast to the more modern spin Zegler champions. As whispers of a financial disaster at the Daily Wire and Rachel Zegler's controversial interviews continue to make waves, fans are left wondering which Snow White will best represent this beloved story, and which will be left in the past. Long before social media and streaming services were common, Disney's 1937 adaptation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs defined what a fairy tale on screen should look like. It was the first full-length animated movie ever produced, and audiences were captivated by its imaginative characters, engrossing soundtrack, and hand-drawn visuals. Along with its technological advancements, it produced the Disney princess model, which would influence generations to come. Over the years, Snow White became well known as a representation of compassion and purity because her story demonstrated timeless principles of friendship, moral courage, and the power of true love. Many of us watched the film as children, captivated by the allure of a charming prince and singing woodland creatures.
He was in the boxing ring.
And Howard Cosell, who was then a famous announcer for ABC Sports, introduced him. And I was asked at some point to get Mr. Sinatra Listerine. We're at Madison Square Garden. It's not like there's a Listerine store in Madison Square Garden. So I dutifully ran out, found a drugstore of some sort. This is before CVS. This is 45 years ago. Anything that has to do with technology creating opportunity for us, I find very enjoyable. The creative process at its highest level is at times frustrating, but often, and fortunately for us, really enjoyable.
Though social perspectives are ever evolving, new writers often feel compelled to update classic stories. Some view these modern reimaginings as fresh and inspiring, while others see them as clumsy attempts to stay up to date. Two very different versions of the Snow White story will now be presented, and each one highlights important fan differences. When Disney announced that Rachel Zegler will play the titular role in their newest live-action Snow White, reactions were swift, and not always favorable. Zegler, who became well known for her breakout performance in a recent movie musical, was at the focus of a controversy after interviews appeared in which she called the original plot out of date. She said Snow White should abandon her search for true love and embrace brave leadership. At first, their ideas appear to be empowering, a self-reliant princess who governs and makes choices for her kingdom. However, many admirers were offended by Zegler's casual disregard for the 1937 classic. She was uninterested in the origins of the characters, according to critics, who even went so far as to say that she had only seen the original film once and hated it. Even objective commentators questioned whether Snow White's ageless charm would be replaced by modern cynicism.
And she's the one who sent me the casting notice and said, "Thank me when you're famous." It's the craziest thing ever that it came true in that weird way, and that's why I bring her everywhere, and she's the best ever. But yeah, I put myself on tape. It's the worst tape you've ever seen in your life. I have no idea how I got the part still. And it's being used to teach future casting directors at NYU.
Zegler's comments provoked a cultural debate that encouraged calls for a more progressive storyline, as well as criticism from fans who feel that any significant revision would be a betrayal of Disney's past. Meanwhile, an unexpected adversary joined the conflict. Brett Cooper became well known when she took on a rival Snow White film under a different production firm. She is most renowned for her YouTube videos and her time at the hardline Daily Wire. This announcement immediately piqued the interest of both casual moviegoers and ardent Disney fans. What would a talk show host do if they were a well-known princess? Especially while working in a small studio. However, as additional details emerged, fans saw that Cooper's adaptation promised a restoration to the fairy tale's traditional roots. Both the original Brothers Grimm content and the recognizable Disney style would be largely followed in the adaptation. A passionate romance, a gentle heroine, and a hint of whimsical magic. In interviews, Cooper had praised the film for its moral clarity and sense of awe, and she seemed committed to maintaining its essence. That message immediately received positive feedback from a large number of fans. After all, some viewers are itching to escape the 21st century cynicism and return to the purity of the original Snow White. Others, however, remain skeptical, wondering if Cooper's approach will seem outdated or even archaic in comparison to Disney's emphasis on modern feminism.
Not designed right now to necessarily develop great leaders or to encourage more people to seek public office. It just is far more difficult. Now, I've never been in it, but from what I observe, it's far more difficult to run for office today than ever before. The rice has to be body temperature, and if it takes too long to serve it, it's no longer body temperature. But what was interesting to me about him was he had 3 Michelin stars, and he was still trying to learn how to get better, how to be better.
Yes.
And I showed that to executives.
This battle is made much more intriguing by the rumors that are swirling over Cooper's former employer, the Daily Wire. Insiders say that CEO Jeremy Boring has been frantically buzzing the office, which suggests a crisis behind the scenes that might involve money problems. Online reports claim that Cooper's departure from the Daily Wire was anything but amicable and could indicate broader discontent inside the company. According to some, Cooper's decision to enter a Hollywood production was audacious. She resisted letting her own issues control her destiny. Others argue that she was forced to leave, citing alleged disagreements with higher management. Anyway, the timing seems strange. As the public criticized Zegler's contemporaries, Snow White, Cooper was quietly assembling her own film. Cooper's new path attracted greater attention as the Daily Wire breakdown rumors gained momentum. How these conflicts might impact her next attempt is unknown. Will the negative publicity surrounding the Daily Wire hurt Cooper's film? Or, ironically, may it make her more famous as a rebel who forges her own way? The public's fascination in the inner workings of Hollywood has never been higher. And with every new bit of behind-the-scenes controversy, excitement in her portrayal of Snow White only increases. What's the big deal is now a question that many fans ask. Is having 2 Snow Whites impossible? In summary, more than 2 females in the same role are represented by this competition. It's a tiny depiction of a long-running Hollywood cultural dispute. One viewpoint is that of Rachel Zegler, who emphasizes self-determination, independence, and leadership in her efforts to adapt fairy tale tales to contemporary ideals.
I feel like it was like that for a lot of us. It's easier for me than it was for Tom because I wasn't playing a character that had already existed in the previous films. And those performances are so wonderful that you don't want to try to recreate anything because there's the fear of failing miserably. But also it's 64 years before the original films take place, the original books. And Francis Lawrence, who directed Catching Fire and both Mockingjay films, and Nina, who produced all of the Hunger Games content, they didn't put any pressure on us to try to recreate anything.
On the other hand, Brett Cooper's adaptation harkens back to the original story's endearing innocence. She is drawn to what many believe to be Snow White's fundamental themes: kindness, love, loyalty, and the gentle belief that good may triumph over evil. To make matters more complicated, Zegler's public statements have been seen as disparaging the conventional notion of true love, prompting some critics to label her rendition of barbaric retelling that clashes with tradition. The fundamental issue is that many fans still place a high importance on the conventional formula, especially in a culture that appears to be becoming more and more negative. They viewed Snow White as a beacon of hope, rather than suggesting a drastic shift. In the meantime, Zegler's fans applaud her for pushing the envelope and refusing to allow an 80-year-old film define modern audiences. This debate is hotter on social media than anywhere else. Almost every time Zegler uploads a clip or does an interview, the internet is bursting with passionate opinions. Because she dared to challenge what they see to be a patriarchal narrative, she is regarded by some as a feminist icon. She is criticized by some for rejecting the timeless ideas of the film and praising the 1937 version's beauty. On the other hand, Brett Cooper is becoming more well-known due to her unwavering commitment to the original narrative. They to remember how TikTok fan-made videos extol how Cooper's Snow White captures the essence. In the meantime, Zegler's critics have produced viral montages that draw attention to her supposedly haughty remarks.
I did. It was so fun. Oh my god, as a huge Disney fan, it was so exciting to finally get to go to D23. Yeah. I live on the East Coast, so I was never able to go, and also tickets sell out like in a flash. So it was so exciting to go, and my mom was super jealous because my mom is the reason I'm a Disney fan.
Growing disapproval of Disney in an environment where daily arguments serve as the catalyst for online disputes. The Snow White War has become a focus point for fans who feel that it's time to let princesses grow up and who yearn for the innocence that defined old Disney. When Zegler said he felt singled out by threats he saw online, another round of conversations began. Supporters of her point out that no actress should have to endure personal abuse. Some people think that she caused controversy by making negative remarks about the classic film, and the backlash was inevitable. In any event, it emphasizes how unstable the situation is whenever a cherished childhood icon gets recreated. The excitement would only be increased if both versions were to be launched at about the same time, possibly even in the same year, according to rumors. This means direct competition at the box office or on streaming services. An important benefit that typically guarantees strong branding and marketing is that Rachel Zegler's endeavor is operating under the official Disney name. But Brett Cooper's film has won over those who are desperate for a real recounting. According to insiders, Disney may be concerned about how Zegler's interviews may affect box office receipts. The studio relies on the brand name to sell tickets, but they also know that public goodwill plays a significant role in the success of a fairy tale adaptation. If audiences believe the new film ignores the beloved 1937 original,
It would be my preference as well.
Why your preference?
Well, look, I'm going to be 72 years old tomorrow. I've put in almost 50 years. There are other things in life that I'd like to do. I also am confident that the board will be able to identify an able successor. And my advice to them was to not hear the noise as much, to continue doing the job that we've entrusted them to do.
Right.
Which is to tell the truth, to state the facts, to present the news in an accurate and a fair and in a timely basis.
Cooper's film might be a PR disaster if it ends up being a more romantic, softer crowd pleaser. The controversy surrounding the representation of dwarfs or other mythological animals in each film only makes matters more difficult. Disney made major internal changes as a result of actor Peter Dinklage's well-known critique of outdated stereotypes. And since then, Disney's princesses and gingerbreads have, for fans who believe Disney has lost faith in the story's timeless elements, Cooper's version may be shifting towards a more traditional interpretation. Because of the swirl of whispers, speculation, and intense debate, the Snow White contest feels less like a pleasant competition and more like a cultural tug-of-war. By now, it should be obvious that this is more than just a story about who gets to wear the iconic yellow, blue, and red outfits. Rachel Zegler and Brett Cooper have come to represent completely different perspectives on how we should handle the cherished customs of our youth. Zegler argues that narratives must adapt to reflect new societal standards and supports an activist-driven, modernized approach. Cooper preserves the kind innocence that made Snow White beloved by people of all ages, signifying a reverence for timeless attributes. It's crucial to remember why we first loved Snow White despite the backstage chaos and social media upheavals. Her enduring appeal is rooted in hope, compassion, resilience, and the simple belief that light, not just romance or prince, wins out over darkness. Whether viewers choose to follow Zegler's reinvention or accept Cooper's conventional reading, the story's central theme remains remarkably consistent. Love matters. It's crucial to be kind.
Like seeing yourself for the first time in full Snow White drag.
I love that description. It's perfect. Oh my God. Well, when you get to wear Sandy Powell, first of all, insane. And then you get to be lit by Mandy Walker.
She was like, Jacqueline, if they play Getaway Car or Maroon, she's on crisis watch. Not only did she play Getaway Car, She also played Maroon. I was having a mental breakdown in the audience at MetLife Stadium.
What are your thoughts on this? Do we try to maintain the original charm of characters, or do we let them evolve to suit our modern viewpoints? Sometimes the most difficult obstacles in the world can be overcome by a loving spirit. Despite the heated controversy surrounding the Snow White's dueling, the fundamental issue is whether we should adopt the optimism of classic Disney films or modify them to fit a rapidly changing world. The outcome of both versions, as well as the destinies of the Daily Wire, Disney, and the actresses, will depend on that question. Whether you're rooting for Zegler's rebellious princess or Cooper's loyal rendition of a beloved tale, the journey is far from over, and the conclusion might surprise us all. Post a comment below, tell us which Snow White you like more, and prepare yourself for a cinematic clash that exposes much more than simply story differences. Both versions are set for release, each with its defenders and critics. Only time will tell which Snow White might truly be the fairest of them all, according to the magical mirror. Don't forget to subscribe for more uncensored viewpoints on Hollywood's most compelling stories, and stay tuned for the last chapter of this fairy tale.